Be bold. Be brave. Be extraordinary. Be vulnerable. Be real. Be curious. Be true. Be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Catherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Catherine McIntosh.
All right, welcome everybody to this week's episode. I'm so excited for today. Oh my goodness. So this is a topic, like most topics that I talk about on the show, that are near and dear to my heart. And before I really dive into the topic, I'm going to start with a story which some of you may have heard in the past, but I think it's a really important life lesson. And I've been surrounding myself with people, or I've heard from clients who are dealing with a lot right now. And when we're dealing with a lot, we're more prone to stress, we're more prone to anxiety, we're more prone to panic attacks, we're more prone to not feel clear in the choices we're making. And so about 2 years ago-ish, right? I'm bad at my timelines, but I was in the midst of my sort of life transition that women make, whether it's, late 30s, mid 40s, mid 50s, and my hormones started to shift. And so here I was working out 5 days a week. I was going to yoga. And I didn't really notice that it was such a habit that I have been ingrained to physically exert my body to the point of exhaustion. But what was happening is I wasn't recovering from the exhaustion. And then it got to a point where I couldn't even go to classes anymore. I couldn't even hike up the mountain or run, or it was like I couldn't even get out of bed. And I was having a ton of anxiety, a ton of panic attacks. And this does not happen. Like, I'm a pretty energetic person. I live in the world of energy and trying to be the best version of myself I can every day. And so here I am as an energy intuitive. All of a sudden, my gas tank is not even empty. It's like doesn't even exist, below empty. And I am depleted. I'm exhausted. My body's put on, maybe 15-ish pounds. My clothes stop fitting. I can't work out. I'm like weepy and depressed and sobby. And I was like, who is this? What is going on? And I was also really short-tempered, especially with my son, right? I'm a single mom, and we've had this amazing dance and dynamic. And don't get me wrong, this is not pity party, Catherine. I have the most magical, amazing life with him, and I feel so blessed. If you're like, oh, it must be hard, I'm like, no, I feel so lucky. This kid has contributed so much to my world, and he's actually quite easy. And now he's going through sort of a hormone change. And so I'm going to talk about it because what I'm going to talk about today, I also highly recommend that parents be aware of this in their dynamic with their children, and also in our own dynamic as we get wiser and maybe happier and more youthful and more vibrant, right? Things start to shift. And so here I am, and I'm just not myself. And it had been going on for weeks, and it might have even been going on for months. And I just was breaking down. And my son was like, Mom, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not okay. And he just looked at me, and he put his hands on my shoulders, and he sat me down, and he's like, Mom, I don't think you're something's wrong. He had known me since birth. He knows I'm a pretty positive, high vibe, do my best, but also really real. I don't fake it when I'm not doing great. I'm pretty direct with my emotions and feelings. I'm also pretty clear that if I express myself, I can change on a dime, and I don't hang on to things, but I just need to be clear. And so he was like, Mom, I think something's wrong. And that's the point where I knew that I needed to do something different. And so I had been going to the doctors to get blood tests to check out my hormone levels. I had been like trying, a cleanse that was expensive. I had a doctor on staff that was really expensive. Like all this money I was spending just to try to get to the root of what the heck was going on with me. And it scared the crap out of me because I really didn't know. And it was such a foreign feeling. And I don't think it's talked about enough, but women probably, and I don't have the statistics, so don't hold me to it, but around the age of 36, they can start perimenopause as early, maybe even as early as 34, and they don't even know it. And so it's these feelings of ambivalence, feeling like you don't, have this zest or drive for life, feeling lethargic, feeling like you don't have a purpose, feeling like, what's the point? Maybe you feel like you're a fraud. There's all of these things that can start to bubble up, and you just think it's life, or it's, the state of the world, or you're worried about your finances, or maybe you just got fired from your job. So you kind of correlate it to that. But what I discovered in this process, when my son sat me down, put his hands on my shoulders and said, "Mom, I think something is wrong," nothing that I was doing was working. Right. So the practical advice for hormone replacement therapy, to get my blood test, to go to a doctor, to figure it out, nothing was working. And I was at my wit's end. And mostly, I just didn't want to be that person who was like so erratic in their emotions and in their responses to their emotions that it wasn't healthy for my son. And it got to the point where there was like a few interactions where I was like, "Oh my God, I just took that out of my son and it has nothing to do with him." And it broke my heart. Right. And so, what we're going to be talking about today is regulating, and really truly the importance of regulating your nervous system. And I don't think this is talked about enough. So, whether you're somebody who deals with chronic stress, you deal with chronic anxiety, you have panic attacks, we're going to dive into the logistics and the nuances of that a little bit. But all that to say that when you focus on the one thing that you can focus on, which is your body, your energetic body, your emotional body, your physical body, and you go, "Oh my goodness, I have this giant pharmacy inside of my physical body that can release dopamine, can release serotonin, can, you know, lower my insulin levels." And what's really cool is you can even talk to the cells of your body to balance out your hormones. You can increase your testosterone, you can lower your estrogen or progesterone. Like, you just have to look at where are you energetically, and you won't know it. But here's the beauty: when you take an outside pharmaceutical, it's like, okay, take this much amount, take this. But when you ask your physical body to tap into its own energetic pharmacy, you're like, "Hey, body, regulate my hormones." And it's like, it knows what to do. And here's the point: is we have to let it. But there's specific things that you can do every day on a daily basis to regulate your nervous system. And I have a couple programs that I'm obsessed with because I know how life-changing and monumental it was for me to get my energy levels back, to get my health back, to get sort of my mental clarity back. And as I focused on doing a few things every day, right? All of a sudden, my life started to open, my body changed, and so I know firsthand what it's like to go from feeling hopeless and helpless and having no idea what to do. And here's the other thing: no idea what's happening or how to fix it, right? To all of a sudden going, "Okay, I'm just going to focus on the one thing I can focus on, which is my body." And when I say that, my weight was not something that I could focus on or control. But I could focus on, can I do some specific movements, some specific meditations, some specific exercises to get my nervous system back on track. And if my nervous system can get back on track, then we'll see what happens. And as I started to get my nervous system back on track, all of the sudden, more energy, more vitality. I wasn't even focused on the scale. I was so happy that I could be there for my son in a really instrumental moment in his life, right? He's only 11 and I only got like 7 years left, and I'm like soaking it up as much as I can. And as much as I want to explode my business out into the world, my priority right now, yes, I'm going to grow my business, but my son, that's my priority. And it has been such a blessing and such an honor. And so to wake up in the mornings and know that I'm regulated and I'm not going to fly off the handle or get pissed off because he didn't put his shoe in the basket before he leaves the house, right? Like stuff that I was being out of control with, and it scared me. And I knew I had to do something about it. So I didn't finish, but I went to grad school to get my master's in somatic psychology. So I studied, somatic psychology for a long time. I studied meditation. I studied the anatomy and physiology of the body. I also studied the energetics of the body. And for the last 20 years, I've been obsessed with the energetics of the body. And I know, as somebody who works with people and energies on the planet for a living, I know that you can talk to a body and you can take out the dis-ease, you can take out the pain, you can take out the ancestral story, you can take out the lack, right? And literally wake up and have a completely new sort of experience of life. I worked with a mom recently of a 4-year-old, and I was like, your child has been trying to get an energy out of your body since he was born. She goes, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And I said, he's behaving the way he's behaving because he's pissed that it didn't work when he was born. And, it's like, so I reached out to her recently. I was like, how's your son doing? She's like, oh my God. It's like, I can't believe that worked. He's so different. I'm like, yeah. And you're going to continue to be different. And so when we give ourselves permission to talk to our bodies, to communicate, to listen, to become aware, right? There is this vibration, right? That comes alive and electric and sends out a signal that changes not only the energy inside of you, but the energy around you. And so your nervous system, specifically the parasympathetic nervous system, its entire role and goal in your life is to help you to relax and be at peace. And so when your parasympathetic nervous system is relaxed and at peace, guess what? You respond to triggers differently. You can't change the trigger, but you can change how you respond to the trigger, right? You can't always change the fear that comes into your world, but you can change how you respond to the fear, right? I call it flipping the script, right? So you flip the script. You're like, oh my God, I'm so afraid. No, maybe, right? Maybe. But what if there's a different story that you can change? And so when your parasympathetic nervous system is in its natural state of relaxation and peace, all of a sudden you are more aligned, you are more empowered, and you can respond to life differently. Now, sometimes easier said than done. Like the other day, I am petrified of snakes, like petrified. And the other day I was walking along, going to the car with my son in the dark, and my friend yelled snake, and I was like, oh, like almost like tossed. I wish the camera was on, right? It would have been like a bloopers video, but like I'm like, like but I knew enough, because in the past if someone yelled snake, I was almost having a panic attack. At this point, my instant reaction was quite comical. And then my response to my reaction was comical instead of fearful. Right. So it's those subtle little things that when you get that parasympathetic nervous system into its natural state, which is to relax and be at peace, so many other benefits. And I don't think it's talked about enough, but I kind of geek out on it. And so one of the things that the parasympathetic nervous system does, it's the longest nerve in the body, right? And I talk about this and specifically in People Pleasing the Course, right? It's an online 12-week course, and actually it goes longer because we do live calls where you get to have live interaction with me to ask. But I believe that people pleasing is a characteristic that keeps your parasympathetic nervous system out of alignment and out of regulation. But when you begin to regulate it, the longest nerve in the body, it controls your immune health, right? Your immune system function. It controls your heart health, and it also controls your digestive health. And I cannot tell you how many people who come to me with digestive issues, and I'm like, yeah, it's a nervous system thing. Right. And then we work on repairing and healing and regulating and calming down their nervous system and reducing the cortisol out of their bodies. And they're like, oh my God, my digestion's so much better. I'm like, yeah, because your body cannot work optimally. So it can't digest food properly. It can't digest toxins properly, can't even digest the information in your environment, which is why so many people are experiencing high levels of anxiety, right? We have now more than ever all these doctors prescribing an over-the-counter pill instead of going, hey, maybe you should work on your parasympathetic nervous system. I know it's not a sexy word, but working on your parasympathetic nervous system. So People Pleasing the Class is one in which we really spend a ton of time on the parasympathetic nervous system. And then in the Breakthrough Body Challenge, it's a 5-day challenge online, and we spend some time and some specific things that you can do to get your nervous system regulated, right? And so most people think that the problem, they have to direct the problem. But I find that when I work on people's nervous systems and getting the foundation of their nervous system, whether it's in like the now, here and now, or it's the nervous system is stuck in a traumatic event, right? Or the nervous system is stuck in a lifetime pattern of maybe ancestral like lineage. Oh, my family comes from Ireland and we were potato farmers and we feast or famine, right? So that's why I always eat too fast, or that's why I always spend my money when I get it, right? A lot of us repeat patterns that are in our lineage and we don't even know it. And so we can actually heal those patterns out of the nervous system that create blockages, that create insecurities, that create different levels of things that you may not know how to change. But when you get really clear that, oh my God, I can use my body and do specific things every day to regulate my parasympathetic nervous system. And when it's regulated, guess what? You change your fight or flight or fawn or freeze, right? The 4 F's. You change that, right? Which immediately, like your heart cannot relax when you think a bear is chasing you, right? Your digestion cannot function properly if you're in feast or famine mode, right? If you're in a war zone, your lymph nodes start to get off kilter, and then they don't flush out the inflammation. And when they don't flush out the inflammation, it can create buildup sort of in the breast tissue, right? It can also create heart palpitations, or you might be someone who's getting sick all the time. All of these things happen when your parasympathetic nervous system isn't regulated. This is just my personal opinion now. Remember, I'm not a doctor, right? I don't have a degree. I just am someone who's been working with energy since I was basically 15 years old. And I've been fortunate enough to work with some of the most incredible gifted healers in the world. I've been fortunate enough to have those healers come to me for sessions. I've been fortunate enough to work with some of the world's most fascinating, coolest people on the leading edge of doing something different on the planet. And, I pinch myself every day at what my life looks like. And yet I am very human and also have fallen falter to not keeping up with my nervous system, not making it a priority. And I know that the impacts that it had, not just on my physical health or my mental health, but on my relationships, on my business, on my own vitality. It was really scary for me as a healer who loves energy, loves people, loves adventure, loves the joy and brightness of life, and the fact that we get to do something different every day. I'm a little obsessed. I thrive on that. And so, based on that, right, I feel so lucky. So, it was so scary when I woke up and was doing weeks on end of this energy that I did not know how to shift. And when I went, you know what? I'm going to focus on my nervous system. And it came in pieces, right? It came in pieces. And the thing is, I said, all right, universe, show me, body, show me, what do I need to know? Because I've thrown all this money at doctors and therapies and possibilities and going to healers. And I'm a healer myself, but sometimes we all need help, right? And I've had coaches and mentors all along my journey and feel so lucky for everyone that's come in my life. But I was like, it's rare that I have a moment where I'm like, I don't feel like I can dig into my toolbox to help myself. I need help from someone else. And it wasn't until I said, body, show me. Body, please show me the answer. Show me the energy. Show me the information that I need to help this. And I will tell you that I see a lot of people all over the world. And I always say, do this for 3 minutes a day. And they're like, yeah, we'll do it. They never do. But the people that actually do the things that help you, right? And everybody's different, but help you get your nervous system regulated, I watch their lives radically transform and change. Right. And so there is no right and is no wrong on this in this journey. But when your parasympathetic nervous system is regulated, digestion, metabolism, thyroid, you can speak your truth clearer. The sort of pharmaceutical pharmacy in your natural body gets activated. So old gut microbiome can release if you've been diagnosed with bad digestion or fistula or all those things, working with your nervous system. We don't realize that we've spent most of our lives in chronic fight or flight, in chronic stress mode, right? There's certain power poses. I believe there was a woman who did a YouTube TED Talk, and it's on YouTube. And I forget what it's called. It might even be called something about power pose. But they did some research that if you hold a certain power pose, so Wonder Woman, where you have your legs spread out, you're standing up, you got your hands on your chest, your shoulders are, your chest is up, your shoulders are back and down. You're standing I can conquer and do anything, like Superman or Wonder Woman, right? Superhero. Got your cape flowing in the wind. If you hold that pose for 2 minutes, it can reduce the cortisol levels in your body by up to, I believe it was 60%. And when you reduce cortisol, guess what? Cortisol is one of the things that keeps weight on. Cortisol also can keep your insulin out of balance. But when cortisol is active in your body, it's hard to get hits of dopamine, right? Serotonin, the good feeling regulators and hormones in your body. And it can also keep testosterone, progesterone, estrogen out of whack, which can create a whole nother sort of health disorders. And the other thing that I really do believe, for those of you that struggle with autoimmune, The two things I believe are the most important is to get your nervous system regulated. Get out of fight or flight, get out of looking and searching for a problem. This is also true if you've struggled with your body weight or self worth or self esteem. If you struggled with food in your body and you're like, I got to change it, I got to change it. All of a sudden, you're in constant stress about this one topic. For some people, it's money, right? Constant stress about this one topic. And then all of a sudden, your cortisol levels are out of whack. And it literally can disproportionately affect and impact over time your body's ability to regulate itself. And so, this nervous system regulation, I personally believe, can be a game changer and a life changer if you start to recognize that you weren't put on this planet to live in constant stress. Yes, sometimes you need to have high levels of cortisol running through your body so you can survive a bear, right? A bear attack or a mountain lion. I live in the woods, right? In the mountains. So you can survive a traumatic event. So you can we need that cortisol for survival. But when that cortisol level stays at a chronic state of high levels of intensity that it shouldn't be, right, then the body normalizes trauma as its mode of operating. And so then people live in constant states of trauma. So if their life is working really well, they'll create drama in one area of their life. Right. I know for me, it was like between business or relationship, money or relationship, right? So, if every relationship in my life was working really well, I would create business trauma. My business is working really well and my relationships were working really well. I'd create money trauma, even though my business is bringing in money. There's things that if we're used to chronic states of stress and all of a sudden we get peace, right? It will feel so uncomfortable and uncertain that we'll go back to the certainty of high cortisol levels, high stress levels, high trauma and drama, and high navigating problems. And so, my favorite phrase, which I've shared on this show several times, is what if there's no problem to solve, there's nothing wrong, and there's nothing to fix? And I got this from a really profound person, also a healer in the world, and such a smart, wise man. And he looked at me in the midst of me constantly coming into him with let's solve this problem and let's solve this problem. Let's solve this problem. He's like, Catherine, what if there's no problem to solve? What if your job is to be like the biggest light you can be in the world? And so, for those of you listening right now, what if your job today, right now, is to be the biggest, brightest light in the world? You did not come here to live in high stress and high anxiety and high levels of mediocrity and putting up with things that don't work for you. You came here to be absolutely fantastic, magical, fantastical, energetic, alive, bright, shine, like all the things, all the things. And so, my friends, to all the things that are possible in your world, I highly invite you. Yes, you can check out my courses and programs. The two that I highly recommend is People Pleasing the Class. It is for those of you that might recognize that you came from a lifetime of trauma, and in order to survive that trauma, you adopted people pleasing. Empaths are really good people pleasers, or not so good, depending on how you look at it or word it. And when we're in chronic people pleasing, we're also taxing our nervous system 24/7, which is why maybe we can't lose the weight, or we're constantly stressed out, or we're getting sick all the time, or we feel like we're can't breathe, right? Those are all signs that something has changed in your life and you're used to maybe the chronic stress and you're like, so it's time to change that. And so people pleasing the class is one. Another one is the body breakthrough challenge. It's a 5-day challenge. But for those of you that can, there's a way more extensive section. And it's pretty much we spend the whole course talking about the nervous system. So check those out on my website. We are going to probably put them on a wait list shortly. So they're gonna be available to sign up now for a short amount of time. And then we will put it on a wait list, and we'll make it available as the wait list grows. So my friends, thank you so much for joining. We are going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and we'll give you some more possibilities about regulating your nervous system.
Times TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Catherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no two experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to katherinemcintosh.com. KatherineMcintosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
All right, my magical friends. So welcome back to today's show. We're talking about the importance of regulating your nervous system. And so just a few really cool things that I've seen when people dive into really focusing on what to do to regulate their nervous system. And there's so many different things you can do. And so it's really, I won't go into all of it, but it's like finding things that you can do to regulate that nervous system and find balance. Now, if you're living in Aspen, Colorado, which is where I'm living, or you come visit, I am fortunate enough now to do classes at O2 in Aspen, and they're called Somatic Awakening. So there's somatic exercises to regulate the nervous system. Amazing stuff. I've got a bunch of somatic exercises in the 2 online courses I shared with you, which are also on my website. But whether it's yoga or meditation or going for a walk or sticking your feet in the river or sticking your bare feet on the earth or hugging a tree, there's so many practices. So I'm not going to dive into necessarily the practices themselves, but more talk about the philosophy of why it's so important. And so we've gotten so accustomed as a culture, as a society, as a world that, oh, I have anxiety. Let me take a pill. And I'm like, anxiety for me, and, some people in my life can hear this conversation. Some people in my life can't. And, I'm always just like, I'm just going to keep being Catherine. And so for me, anxiety, yes, like when I had my anxiety attacks, they were freaking real. My panic attacks, freaking real. And I was scared because this was new for me. I'd had maybe 2 panic attacks in my life, and they happened right after the birth of my son. I believe that when our hormones are changing, we're more prone to anxiety and panic attacks, which is why teenagers, when you're teenager, or, my son's 11 and he's already experiencing hormonal shifts. And so when our hormones are shifting, we're getting this inflow of energy, like ginormous inflow of energy. Why? Because hormones, and most people don't talk about this, but this is just my philosophy, is they elevate our awareness. They are basically helping us raise our vibration to a new level. And so when you do something different in your life, or connect with someone different in your life, like a teacher who opens up your eyes to a world you didn't even know was possible, it's possible that you start going through sort of life changes, hormone changes, body changes, cellular changes. And if you're used to that constant fight or flight, or trauma and drama, or stress, or just surviving, or just getting by, and someone comes into your life and they're like, hey, here's a world of a totally different possibility, it can trigger panic and anxiety attacks, right? It can sort of, because you're so used to maybe stuffing it down or not regulating it. But teenagers, they get this influx, as well as women going through their hormonal changes, as well as women who are regular and regularly menstruating, as well as pregnant women, right? Any change in hormones in the body creates a surge of energetic awareness. Now, if we're not in tune to what's actually happening, it will feel like anxiety and a panic attack. It will show up as anxiety and a panic attack. But I truly believe that anxiety and panic attacks are suppressed awareness. They're suppressed energies that are trying to come out of the body to heal. And if we don't actually navigate it, it sort of suppresses the energy, right? And then it can lead to anxiety. And so there are times in our lives, right, where if you are in a place in your life and maybe you are dealing with the traumatic death of a loved one, right? Maybe you're dealing with a traumatic car accident. Maybe you're just dealing with so much stress in your life and you've got 4 kids. There are times in our lives where I believe medication can serve its purpose for sure. I just don't believe that we're meant to live on it. I don't believe that we're meant to depend on it for life. And so as we navigate our hormone fluctuations, it's why, so in Native American cultures, right, when women are bleeding, right, they're in their moon cycle, as they say, that they are not allowed to be around the shamans in the community, because a shaman will get sick if it's around a woman that is bleeding. Why? This is just my personal perspective, okay? So I'm not here to rattle any feathers, but because I believe that, like, medicine men carry a certain vibration. They're used to it. I believe that when women are menstruating, they raise their vibration, and it can be really intense. And so it can be a disruptor to the medicine man who might be. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just sharing information, right? So I believe sometimes the women can be even way more powerful, and it might throw the medicine man's intuition off at that time of their menstrual cycle. And so there are communities in the world where women will go into what they call their red tent, right? There are, in indigenous cultures, women will literally stay in their room, and the men will cook and leave the food for them. right? They won't go in and see them. They disappear for days at a time, where they read, they sing, they meditate, they journey together as women. And I believe that if we can honor the cycles and the changes in our lives, we're not meant to stay on high octane 24/7, right? We're also not meant to be depressed 24/7. We're not meant to be stressed out 24/7. We're meant to honor the different phases and cycles and seasons of our life and find ways to support ourselves through the process. And if you can focus your energy on regulating your immune system, getting used to peace and calm, getting used to the idea that it could be possible for you to live a fantastic, fantastic life, right? Not a mediocre one, not one that's constant stress, but one in which you find aliveness. And so there might be a teacher in your area. Maybe there's an online course you can take. Maybe there's a meditation circle, right? Like I do online on my website, I believe we have some meditations, right? There's tons of people out there that are offering really great work in the world. And it's about finding the people that you resonate with and being like, yes, when I'm around this person, when I listen to their voice, they calm me down. And so you want to pay attention to who are the people in your world that when you're around them, they are allowing an energy of you to be like, yeah, I feel like I'm at home, right? And look, we all go through phases and seasons and cycles of who we spend time with. If you're with a significant other, chances are you've been through seasons and phases and weathered some storms, and that's a part of it too. It's not about being 24/7 in, in in sunshine on the beach, right? For 365 days for the rest of your life. This is about, are you honoring what is desiring to come through? So I always tell people, if you're dealing with a ton of anxiety, it's because something in your life and in your body is trying to shift and change. And then it's up to you to allow it. So sometimes when stuff is leaving our bodies, it can feel like if you've had an accident. So, like, I've been getting some healing on my shoulder. I had a snowboarding accident a few years ago, and it's still, right, still when I do like certain poses and postures in yoga, it can still irritate me. So I've been getting some work, and there are moments when I'm working with the energy myself or with another person. I'm like, oh my God, that's so intense. It's because the pain of the accident, the memory of the pain is trying to come out. Same thing with anxiety, right? The pain of feeling anxious, the pain of some of the life things that you've experienced, which no one should ever have to hang on to for the rest of their lives, is trying to come out of them, right? And if you're like, oh, I'm not going to let it go, it's going to create even more pain. It's going to create more of that agitation. But if you go, holy cow, this is coming up to be let go of, to be released, because I am changing the way I see the world. I'm changing what I want in my life. I'm changing who I'm surrounding myself with. Of course, my body is trying to release some old, crappy energies that it shouldn't hang on to, nor should it need to hang on to. We are not meant to stay suppressed. We are not meant to force ourselves into not allowing our bodies and our lives to transform and change, to grow and evolve, right? We're just not meant to. That's my personal opinion. And for anyone out there that loves their life exactly as is, good. You should. But if something in your life is off and it really isn't working for you, then get curious, investigate. So, my favorite question to ask is, holy crap, is this energy coming up to be released? Right? So in when it comes to body, and I've talked about this in other episodes, there is, right, our body's made mostly of water, 60 to 76% water. Water changes according to temperature, right? So the molecule of water changes its shape according to temperature. So if you heat a body up, right, gets hot like a hot flash, right? A lot of women probably know what I'm talking about, men too, right? That hot flash, what it's doing is that heat is trying to release energies out of the body. When the body gets cold and frozen, what your body's actually doing is it's trying to raise your vibration. So, heat is great and cold is great, which is why hot and cold therapies can work to allow you to get in better alignment with yourself, right? To get your head and your heart sort of on the same page so that you can send your electromagnetic signal out to the world for what you'd like to create and be and do and have in the world. And yet, if your nervous system isn't regulated and your heart and your head, you're working on your alignment, but your nervous system isn't regulated, so you're not relaxed, that signal might get a little tweaked and a little twerked, right? And so then you're thinking you're being really clear with the universe, but there's a little bit of polarity. And I think we talked about, and maybe we didn't talk about it in this episode, I've been recording some videos. One of my favorite things to do, little salt, so sea salt on the tongue, right? Let it dissolve. One or two little sea salt pellets or flakes, let them dissolve, right? High end, like Himalayan. I've got some black lava Hawaiian sea salt, which I really love. I've got some high end, like red Himalayan. And I'll just put them on my tongue, one or two little crystals, let it dissolve, and then I chug some water, and that will get rid of the polarity in the system. And so when our bodies go through anxiety or panic attacks, is because our nervous system isn't regulated. It's because we're changing who we are, right? We're becoming a better version of ourselves, and that stuck energy is trying to come out of the body. And maybe something triggered it, like a life event, like a trauma, like a death, like a job change. Maybe, I don't know. It could be you're moving states or you're moving countries, or it could be maybe you had an accident, car accident, bike accident, something in your life all of a sudden jolted your body into something in the chemistry, the physical, and the energetic chemistry of your body needs to change. And so, my friends, we are not meant to stay stuck the entire time. So, my favorite question to ask, I'll say it again. If you're experiencing high levels of anxiety, if you're experiencing high levels of panic attacks, if you're experiencing feeling off in your body, like focus on regulating your nervous system first, especially if you have a ton of body pain. I've had a lot of people work with the vagus nerve. And when they work with the vagus nerve and the psoas muscle together, right, releases stuff that's been hanging on, it can allow the body to dissipate a lot of pain, right? A lot of stuff. And so it's dissipating that out of the body. Okay. So my favorite question to ask is, if you're experiencing anxiety or panic attacks, is this coming up to leave? Right? Are these, shakes or feeling like you're having an out of body experience, or hot, cold, right? Remember, hot, steam, releasing energy out of the body, cold, raising your vibration, right? Raising your vibration. And it's funny, even as I'm talking, I'm getting hot and cold. And so as we evolve, our body temperature can go through this influx. As we change our hormones, body can go through this influx. I'm watching my 11-year-old son go through hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. He's like, Mom, I'm freezing. I'm shaking so bad. I can't even move. And I'm like, great, let's get in a bath. Let's get in the infrared sauna blanket. Let's get under the covers. Let's get in some Epsom salts. And so there's no right way to do you, to navigate the energies, to figure it out. But what hopefully this show invites you to consider is it might be time to empower yourselves, to educate yourselves, to find a class, to find a course. Again, I've got People Pleasing the class, by far one of my most favorite classes. And here's why. You get lifetime access. It is going to go into a wait list soon. So if you see this episode and you're like, I want to check this class out, and I can certainly say more about it, but there's so much information on the page on my website, is that people pleasing is a characteristic that will keep your body in fight or flight. And we don't even know it. People pleasing can cause a ton of health issues. And so in this people pleasing, the class, I really focus on how do you regulate your nervous system? How do you increase your self-worth? How do you work with the vagus nerve, the somatic exercises, the meditations? It's specifically geared to help you wake up to the best version of yourself. So it's not about not making people happy and being in the world. It's about making people happy and not losing yourself in the process. And when you do that, you keep your nervous system regulated, which helps your digestion, helps your metabolism, helps your heart health, helps your gut health, helps you be clear, helps you sort of channel ideas or just be a vessel of your niche or art or creativity in the world or business. I believe everybody is an artist, just of a different form. And so, oh my goodness, I'm really grateful for all of you for continuing to show up on the show, to listen. Please, if this episode today resonates with you, share it with someone you know who may be dealing with a teenager, maybe dealing with hormones, or maybe it's your spouse that's dealing with it. Maybe it's a loved one or a friend, because I believe so wholeheartedly in the wisdom of our bodies and the wisdom of what's happening on the planet right now. We are being called to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. Right. And the planet and the solar system and the astrology is like, and the solar flares and what's happening on the planet, it's all designed to help us become the best version of yourself. So if you are dealing with stuff that feels insurmountable, I do know how it feels, and it is scary, and there is a way out. And I promise on the other side is a whole new version of you that feels more like you than the one you've been hanging on to. So my magical friends, as always, I am honored to be with you every week. If this inspired you, go check out my website, follow us, like us, all of the things. You can find me on social media. But most importantly, whatever you choose, may you continue to trust the process of you in this journey of life that no one knows better about you than you. No one knows better about your body than you do. And we aren't given the training manual of life when we're born about our bodies, about relationship, about money, about business, about how to navigate the ins and outs of everything that we go through being in a physical body at this time now. But here's the deal. Change will always be constant. And so you have to just consider, are you, right, in alignment with the best version of yourself that you want to be right now? And if that's a yes, yes. And if you're like, oh, something is off, my body is experiencing weird changes and symptoms and stuff, maybe it's time to take some time to get to know the new version of you that wants to come out and be in the world. So as always, I am honored and blessed, and may you have a magical day, and we'll see you next time.
Catherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.